Hey guys, Human here. Well, EX3 is coming out soon, and I figure why not make a tier list? This will be my first tier list I am making, and EX3 will be a extremely long format. It will last from now until I believe February, which is when BT11 releases. However, our EX3 will be very different compared to Japan's EX3 as we have a new ban list included in ours. We have um, Dover Gray that got hit. We got Calling that got hit. Like our ban list will change our meta compared to how Japan had their meta. So let's go right into it. We'll start off with our older decks rather than newer decks to see where they land in the tier list. So let's go right into Alphamon. So with the word great being hit, being set at 1 now, you would need to run Sunariza in order to have more of an aggression in deck. If you don't run a Sunariza, that is less security checks. You end up playing more of a control deck rather than a power based deck where you hit really hard and just win it in one turn. So in that case, I put it in somewhere between tier 2 and 3, my opinion. However, more in 3 as it just doesn't have that oomph that it has had before. It does have, however, it loses the power from obviously security checking with Dora Gray. Um, you do have defensive cards like Breath of the God, but that's not enough. And then what are you gonna do? It just doesn't have the power or speed it does compared to something like Melga X or like Commandramon even. Alright, next we have Beostar. So Beostar has always been around since release, honestly. We always have someone that plays the deck. Um, it has a lot of security bombs. However, because it's a slow setup and the fast-paced format, I put it in tier 2. Uh, with how fast some decks are, they'll win before you get the setup. However, if your security is good enough and you're able to fend off those attacks, you go right into the mid late game, you're playing the Build Start for free, you end up winning the game from there on instead. That's why I set it in tier 2, as it is very powerful with its security bombs. However, if you play against something like War Grey X and they play your old good old War Greymon with no securities options, then that's just it. What can you say? Next we have Black War Greymon. So Black War Greymon with Crossheart being out of the picture, right? It its viability diminishes a lot. Its potential diminishes a lot with Crossheart out of the picture with Crossword being hit. It's somewhere between 2 and 3. Um, it's hard to say. I would personally put it somewhere in 2. It is still a very powerful deck. Um, it's not tier 1 or 1.5, however, but higher than Beostar though. It is more consistent. There are a lot of searching in the deck, and you have a lot of draw power with Kuboy. Um, we have the Gammon deck, the Canon Weissmon. It's super strong. Actually, no, yeah, let's do that later. Let's go into Dark Knightmon. Dark Knightmon, you have tamer removal, you have blocking potential because of Nene. However, you have decks like Blue Flare. You have decks like Bloom Lord. They get around it. Those are your top tier decks. If you're only playing against those top tier decks, your chances are you're not gonna do that well. But if you play against like lower tiers, like tier 1.5, tier 2s, you might do better. But the consistency in the deck is not there for you to really win your game. You're playing cards for you're playing the cards for expensive. They're expensive play costs. You don't really get your value out of it like some other decks do. However, I do believe it is better than Alphamon with Dora Great Hit, so I'll put it in tier 3 above Alphamon. Next, let's go with Grandis. Let's go Grandis. Grandis, just like every other OTK deck, it has not made any change except the Kokuwamon that we got in BT10, where you gain a memory if you delete a Digimon. So if you have it under your source and you delete a Digimon with piercing, great, you get to check something and you get more memory. Um, I it I think it's a it's a 1.5. Every TK deck deserves a spot in 1.5 or higher in BT9 because they're just that good. Like you can't get you have no interaction if they have the pieces. If you don't have a security bomb, you just lose. What are you supposed to do? You either have a some kind of option in Biostar. Let's say you have a fly bullet. That's the only way to kill it. It's a level 6. But if it has another Digimon on board, your what do you call it? Happy Bullet can't do anything. It doesn't unsuspend, so Trump sword doesn't kill it until after it attacks. It's the end of attack, then unsuspend. Of course, you have decks like Mastermon that have potentially chaos degradation that can remove it. However, you only have 4 of those. There are only so many cards, so many options in your decks that can remove Grandis. That's why I put it as a 1.5. Not tier 1 yet though, however, because there are other decks that are faster, such as Melga X. Next, let's go with Imperial. Good old Imperial. Um, Blue green. It's solid. It's just a very solid deck that just never goes away. It's always around. Um, I'm putting this tier 2. It's a tier 2 deck for me, but it's not tier 1 though. It's a solid tier 2 deck. I do think Black or Gray is better as they do have blockers, which just stops the deck in general. As long as you block them, if you can't even make the first attack, what's the point? Your Paldemon first attack needs to go through. And with the current meta, with how fast decks are and what security bombs or even blockers, it's just not enough. Next, we have Magna X. Magna X, I think it's also tier 2 deck. Um, whether it's a high tier, mid tier, low tier, I would say it's a mid tier, mid tier 2 deck where it has the armor potential of rushing your opponent down, fire rocket rush down. You might even play a GX in the deck. We've seen a deck that topped with it playing GX. Uh, and it has redirecting attacks because of its effect. And you can't pierce through it because your piercing needs to delete the Digimon. The Magna X goes right on top of your security. So let's put it above Imperial, but below Wargrey. What do you think? Actually, no. I'm gonna put it above Wargrey. Black Wargrey. I'm putting it above Black Wargrey. Next we have Mastermon. So Mastermon has a lot of options here, a lot of security bombs. They do remove level 6 and under, however, they cannot remove level 7s unless they have chaos degradation. And with how the meta is and how Crossheart is not a factor anymore, honestly, I don't see Crossheart being a factor anymore. Because of that, I would put Mastermon as a low tier 1.5 deck. Grandis is definitely better. Uh, with its security bombs, it can easily turn the game around. It You can play Ofani, you can play Ordine. Ordine recovers you what you lost against these OTK decks where they are checking like 4 or 5 security all at once. But if they're unable to finish you off, you're able to come back because of that. We have Melga X next. Melga X, solid tier 1 deck. It just is so fast. Now that you have Omnimon X antibody as well, you're able to kill your opponent at 1 security. You attack with it, you use your X anti effect to digivolve into Omni X. Omni X then bottom decks their Digimon and looks in your opponent's security and just trashes the security, causing it to swing for a game. So Melga X just becomes so much better because of the addition of Omni X. Before you had Omni to win, Blitz Omni to win, Digivolve over it, go Blitz Omni, swing for game. Now you can Digimon over it. You don't even have to Digimon over it. You can just swing with it and go right into Omni X to win. Or if you already swung with it, you go into uh Blitz Omni and then go into Omni X to win. They're so much better now. Next we have Blue Flare with the disappearance of Crossheart again. Blue Flare just goes up in tier, just straight goes up. I believe it is a tier 1 deck as well. However, whether it's better than Melga X or not, I would say no. Melga X is just infinitely quicker and hits harder. Promo, like I said, also with promo where Garurumon give you 2 checks at once. And Blue Flare, your opponent do require to have 2 Digimon or more for you to unsuspend. So if you were to attack, unsuspend, your opponent needs to have 2 Digimon. It's fairly simple for your opponent to play around that. Just don't play 2 Digimon on board. If they have one, you can stun the one, but you can never unsuspend. That's why you have to play your Greymons. Your started at Greymons, you can get 2 checks. You can play it, stun your opponent, and get 2 checks in right away, and call it a day. All right, it did its job. Now you can go next to Digimon. Try and do the same thing. All right, Minerva. I know I said Minerva was potential best deck in format in BT10. I 100% take that back. It's so easy to play around. It's just not good into the format. There's so much better decks. Mastermon's better. Grandis is better. Blue Flare is better. Blue Flare straight counters this deck, actually. And then Melga X is better. Also straight counters this deck. What are you supposed to do? It just cannot win. Maybe against your lower tier decks, you can win. Against decks that can go wide, you won't win, actually. If you go play against tall decks that build 1 stack, maybe there's potential for you to win. So I in, I'm sorry to everyone else, but I gotta put Minerva in tier 3. Maybe in the local level you can play Minerva against them, but like if you're going to a top tier tournament such as like an Ultimate Cup or something, or even that, I don't think it is the way to go. However, if you enjoy the deck, I enjoy it. Go right ahead and play it. It's very fun to play. Alright, Mother D Reaper. D Reaper super good against OTK decks. However, now that the format has both OTK and not OTK, it's very, very bad against Blue Flare. However, it's good against OTK, like I said. Um, I would put Mother D Reaper as tier 2. I think it's a tier 2 deck. But bottom tier 2 deck where it's good against some decks, but then really bad against the top tier decks. With I mean low DP, you're checking 2 or 1 with Metal Gray from Blue Flare. Do 2 swings stun, 2 swings stun. It doesn't take long for them to win. And of course they play Sora and Joe, so they just get infinite memory from that. Alright, now we got Ofani Loop. Ofani Loop, solid top of tier 2, bottom tier 1.5, right around that corner. Um it just has a lot of security bombs. You just go right into it, have security bombs, you play around these OTK decks. However, though, you're now short on callings. Your calling is now down to 1. It got hit. Um, but, but, like I said, they're super good against OTK decks. You can play Venusmon in these. Outside of Venusmon, you might even play Sakuya. It all depends on how you want to play. Venusmon can stop OTK decks. It stops when Digivolve effect. It stops when attacking effects. Super good. Next, we have Jesmon. Personally, I think Jesmon is a 1.5 deck. Higher than Mastemon, but lower than Grandis. Jesmon can go really, really wide, but it's super bad against decks like Blue Flare. Blue Flare just stuns their whole board. You can't stop it. Outside of that, there's always decks like Bloom. Bloomlord. So Bloomlord, if they put a Palmumon out, you cannot play your sisters. What are you supposed to do? You're The core of the deck is to play Systemons by effect. Palmamon stops that completely. So what's next? What's next after going to Jesmon? Nothing. Because of that, that's why it's a 1.5 deck. It cannot compete against those tier 1 decks. However, it can compete very, very well against all the 1.5 decks. Maybe except Grandis, because Grandis can also play Palmuma. Maybe this is a time where you have to play Crimson Blaze in your Jesmon decks. If you don't play Crimson Blaze, you cannot remove those Palmumons, and Palmumon counters you that hard. Alright, now we have Crossheart. Crossheart, I'm sorry, but after that Cross 4 hit, it's straight down to tier 3. It's not good anymore. Sure, you can play Shaman King version and recycle your Cross 4, but what are your chances of seeing your one-off Cross 4 within the top half of your deck? Maybe not even top half, the top quarter of your deck. You have to be able to go through your deck as fast as possible and find it. But then what if it's in security and then you don't see your king version at all? Your king version, just to play it, it requires 3 memories just to play. And there's very likely, once you play that king version, you're passing turn as well. And if you're not, you're at 0. And if you're at 0, you can't even play cross 4. So in turn, your win condition now becomes cross 5, and to do multi checks on cross 5 and be aggressive as possible. It is still a rookie rush based deck though. So if you have these dark hearts, you're able to rush them down. But it just takes so much more to set up compared to before. Alright, security control. Security control, I think it's a 1.5. As for it's better or worse than Jesmon, it's right around the same. I would say it's better simply because it can play against your top tier decks. While Jesmon can play cards like Delicate Plan, Venus Mont just says, no, you cannot have these when attacking effects. Not even Venus one, your security just says, no, I'm stopping you right here. I have a chaos degradation. I have a health site. I have your new 8 cost option in yellow from BT10. He just removes it. Just DP reduction kill something. And next we have War Grey X. I see War Grey X as a solid 1.5 deck. Oh, I'm missing something. Oh, I see something else there. Yeah, War Grey X, I think it's a solid 1.5 deck. It's also an OTK deck. Like I said earlier, I believe these BT9 OTK decks are solid 1.5s. They always have something for you. They always go for game. And if you're not able to, they're just not interactive. If you're interacting with them, something's wrong. They're doing something wrong. So Wargrey X, same thing as Melga X actually. You swing for 4 into security, and then you go into Blitz Omni and Omni X for game. Simply because it can. And because Wargrey X, it gains memory when your security is removed from your opponent's security. So you attack with it, remove security, you gain your memory, you keep turn, go into Omni and Blitz Omni, and then Blitz Omni will go into Omni X. That will swing for game. So unless you have some kind of blocker, but even with blockers, you have EX1 War Greymon that deletes a blocker when attacking. So against decks like this, like I said earlier, it's not interactive, it's very unhealthy, but it is high roll. These decks are very high roll. They do have the searching cards to find the pieces. They have Agumon that searches. They have Agu X that searches. They have Kuboy that searches. They have Red Memory Boost that searches. So as long as they get their setup, there is no way to win. That's why I put it as 1.5. It is above Mastemon, actually. I put it above Mastemon. It is better than Mastemon, but it's not better than Jesmon. Jesmon is just so much more consistent. Um, And to play this against Venus, Venus has to already be on board before you go into Wargrey X. So if it's on board, Wargrey X won't be able to do much the turn it's played. However, if it survives, it attacks security and survives, it can delete the Venus Mon because of the end of turn effect. And then you have to wait for your opponent's turn to pass back to you before you can go further. So it does not always win within that first turn. but it does play around Venus if possible. All right, let's do some new. Actually, no, there's one more deck left. Gallant X. With the addition of new cards for Gallantmon, um, I think it's a solid 1.5 deck. I put it above Jessamon actually, because in our meta with in how it's played, Bloomlore, they like to play cards on board, which is Gallant's favorite thing. Gallantmon's favorite thing is to have opponent's stage one to be on play, so you can delete them, you get their effects. Delete more, get more effects. Melga X, unfortunately, they don't really play Digimon on board, but they on occasion they do play the Gabumons, so they can search their pieces. And then you have cards like Blue Flare. Blue Flare, same thing. They have to play on play in order to have their effects and then save them. They do get aggressive attacking and then saving. Grandis, not very much so. Um, and then we have Security Control, Jespon, same thing. Jespon will always play something on board. Security Control, not so much, but because it's Gallimon, you just trash the security and swing. You don't have to really hit them, but if you do, you do. Just hope that you don't hit anything. That's why it's under security control, but above Jessamon. Jessamon can play something, swing with sisters, or no, swing with Jessamon and play sisters. You have so many sisters on board. Now that means you have so many targets for Gallant to pop. You just pop every single sister. You get more effects. And then, of course, you have Gallant X that pops more Digimon, and then you have Crimson Mode. Better yet, you might even go into a Omni X. You just bottom deck their Digimon, look in security, trash the security, and hit them as well. Alright, now we have one more O deck. This goes straight into gambling deck. Beelzemon, you're going to the casino, you're gambling. If you're playing Beelzemon, it means you're addicted to gambling. What can I say? You're either buying a lottery ticket, you're going to the casino. If you win, you're the best gambler there is. Nothing else to say. That's why this tier is here. Simply for Beelzemon. Wait, there's actually one more deck. Imperial. I believe it. Imperial, same thing. It's very high roll. It hits you super hard. After that, Steam is down. So unless you can get those pieces right away, super fast within the second egg. So your first egg is a Icemon egg where you attack, it dies. You discard your pieces, and then your second egg is the one you go off and just goes through all of your opponent's security. No security effects, because that's what it does. And it has an inherent delicate plan in them. However, you do get a tamer effect at least, so that's enough. So it goes through your security. Okay, now you're giving your opponent like 8 memory to work off with. So that 8 memory, if they're able to come back with that 8 memory, you automatically lose. And with how we like to play our decks, that 8 memory is a lot. It's very simple to remove the Imperial. It's very simple to just go through all your security as well with 8 memory. Alright, next we have Aegis Dramon. Unfortunately, with Cross being removed from play, unable to be seen play, it's gonna be dropped into tier 3. It was a solid tier 2 deck before, with how Japan had it, but now I think it's a tier 3 deck. Um, I think would be above Alpha, below Dark Knight. I think Dark Knight is a better deck, but Aegis the deck likes to go wide, very, very wide, which is your favorite thing to do if you're playing a blue flare deck, or if you're playing like Bloom Lore, you just bottom deck your opponent's Digimon. The Aegis will not be able to do much. You can tack over, you can bottom deck it because you have Hydra, like, and then of course you have decks like the OTK decks. You just go through your entire security. So by the time you get your Aegis you're most likely just dead, or you have no security. Alright, next we have Cano Vice, which is with the addition of Thorbigmon. It does allow the deck to be more playable, but it is still a very for fun deck. You gotta have fun with it. It's a tier 3. It does hit you pretty hard though. If you have the break claws, if you have the heroes, you just go super hard in security, go as fast. If your opponent has no answer, you can win later. But but it's very very piece dependent and slow. And that's just how it is. And Chaos Dramon. Chaos Dramon is just like how Machine Dramon is. However, it adds more viability to Machine Dramon. Machine Dramon itself, it's very slow. It takes a very long time to set up, which is the same thing as this. Until you get, until you go into like PT12 when you have Analog Man, um, it's very very hard for the deck to be played. Um, I it's just tier three. There's nothing else to say besides that. It's just a tier three deck. I it's better. It's not worse. It's not better than Cross, unfortunately. I don't think it's better than Cross, but it's better than your Candle Vice, your Gamma Index, though. All right, we have Bloom Lore and Hydra. Bloom Lore Hydra, solid, very solid. It's a to me, I think it's a solid tier one deck. Potentially better than Melga X. These two decks are my um top two choices of deck if I were to play in a big tournament and I really want to win. They're just consistent. They have the answers you need. They have it has Hydra for you to remove Digimon. It has Boomlord that hits really hard, piercing, skill attack plus, and you can keep going on your turn. It has Agitar that can play more Digimon. You have floaters. You have floodgates. You have Terriermon. You have Palmumon. Two Palmumons. The other Palmumon lets you suspend your opponent's Digimon. How good is that? And then you have searches like Palmon that searches. You have Sunflowmon that searches. And all your level 4 Digivolutions, they're one cost except for Sunflow. And Sunflow is your searching Digimon. Next, we have Darkdramon, which is Commandramon. Commandramon deck has a history. A history of just always doing well. So it's it's 1.5. It's never a bad deck. It's a rookie rush based deck. It's always good. Um, I think it's straight smack right in the middle of tier 1.5. Whether it's better than Jesmon or not, it's right around the corner. You know what? Let's put Jesmon higher. Let's put it under simply because Jesmon can have Balhawk that can delete Digimon. But you have new Commandramon support. They have the new Darkmon. You have the new Tankdramon. They're super good. They they make the deck even better than what it was before. And even now, it's still good. Your deck, you can play Ultimate Flare. You can play Iron Fist Onslaught. You have Kazus to constantly cycle through your deck, and you can play Dexmon. How much? Like the deck has everything you want in a deck that can be have speed. It can have defensive power, and it can have offensive power. All right. Next we have Exa. Examon. Really good. Really good. Especially against these OTK decks where it's just one tall stack. You force them to attack with it when they bring it out. However, it's countered by Palmumon if you can't bring out the Slayer Germon. And then for Melga, it's countered by the X anti effect of Garurumon. It just won't be deleted. And then you go up the stack and you bounce it back to your hand. You can't stop that. And then you have Blue Flare that can stun it. You can't stop that. What are you supposed to do? Nothing, unfortunately. That's why I put it as a top of 1.5. It's better than your 1.5 decks, but it's not better than your 1 decks, your tier 1 decks. So, it's at top of 1.5, your 1.5 stacks. They push up, you just say no. You stop them, you force them to attack, you block it, they lose their stack. Unless they can remove it somehow, which most decks are unable to, as it has the evade inheritable from Quadramon, and it has blocker. Blocker inheritable, evade inheritable, and then when suspended, it can unsuspend. So you block, unsuspend, you can block again. And next we have 4 Great Dragon. Alright, that it honestly it's just not good. It's way too expensive to play. Um, it's just not good. That's all I can say. I can I even put Chaos Dramon, Command Machine Dramon better than that because It's way too slow. Yes, you can cycle through your four great dragons. You can play them, but they're good against very specific decks that are level six based or even under. Um, and you have to make sure your level fives are alive so you can get your inheritable, and your level five can go into your level sixes. So if you can go into a Goldramon and keep a Goldramon stack alive, sure, it's amazing. But your level fives is where it's at. Level fives, because then you have your inheritable level four that gives your level six rushes, which is what you want. You want your level six rush, so that way you're able to attack with these big guys the moment they're played. And you can't even use them for Digivolution, so you can't even joggers with them. You can't even Digivolve them into a level seven or with them at all. So at that point, either use them for the effect, attack, and then that's it. They're just sitting floaters. And of course, we have Lynx. Lynx is unfortunately not that good against majority of the meta with how it is, especially cards like X Antibody being in play. Sure, you can't Digivolve, but that's only if they're unsuspended. So if they're suspended, you attack. Now they're now suspended. Now you Digivolve with the X Anti effect. Now you can keep on going with your effects. So unfortunately, I do have to put it into tier three. Um, but not better than Minerva. Minerva to me is the top of tier three. It might even get pushed to tier two based on how performance is with EX3 meta. But in our current meta, it's solid where it is right now. So here's my tier list. Our tier one decks are Bloomlore Hydra, Melga X, and Blue Flare. North America has always been extremely heavy on the blue meta. That's just how it is. And then we have Examon. Examon in the top of 1.5. It can even go up to tier 1 with based on how our plays are. But if there are more appearances of Melga X, Bloomlore, and Blue Flare, Examon stays in 1.5. It's very hard for that deck to compete against those three. And then we have Grandis. Grandis plays really well into those decks, but does really poorly into Exa. Um, since Grandis can just pierce through the whole deck. Just nothing you can stop them about that. Grandis is really good in this Bloom lore, since Bloom lore requires you to suspend in order to play your Digimon. But Grandis says if you suspend, you lose in memory in exchange. And of course, security control. Security control has evolved over time. It You're now using purple Mimis, you're using purple Karis. You might not even go that route this time. You maybe even go the red route and play Gigimons with Gimons. You might but because Sunrise Buster got hit, you can't really go that route anymore. Speaking of Sunrise Buster, that is also why Mastermon is down here. If Sunrise Buster was still around, you could play the red Mastermon instead, red purple. So you now play the Gimons, you play Sunrise Buster. Your Sunrise Buster can get your Tamers out and delete Digimon, so you can bump your Mastermon up. It's even better in PG-12 with Mirai around, but that's for later, not now. Right now it's EX3, and that card's not around yet. And Sunrise Buster is already hit. It's not going to help uh, its case. So the best case scenario for Mastamon now, similar to how previous Mastamon decks are. However, you should and need to play Ordean. Ordean is your way of recovering and removing more presence. A lot of your opponents are now playing going wide, so you just go Ordean, remove the whole board, and recover. So there you have it. This is my tier list for EX3, Bloomlore, Melga X, Blue Flare for tier 1. 1.5 is Exa, Grandis, Security Control, Gallant, Jesmon, Commandermon, Wargrey X, and Mastermon. I'll give a shout out to Black War Gray and Ofani Loop because they do show up time and time again. They will. And so will Imperial and so will Armor. These are the decks that you should expect to see around more often. Primarily, you should be seeing Bloomlore a lot. You should be seeing Melga X a lot. You should be seeing um, Blue Flare a lot, and so will Exa. So when you go into tournament, think about those decks. Think about what you want to, how you can counter it, and what cards you would need in your deck to make sure you're ready for them. All right, get see you guys around.